Hey everyone, Luke here, and welcome back to ThursDev. This week, instead of my long researched retrospectives or industry insider information, I'd like to talk about a very interesting development announced yesterday by CD Projekt in regards to their good old games platform. That's GOG, for those of you who aren't familiar with the long version. If you aren't already in the know, GOG announced a new initiative they're calling GOG Connect yesterday that gives people with GOG accounts the opportunity to link their accounts with Steam accounts that they inevitably also possess, and through doing so receive complimentary copies on GOG of at least select games on their platform that the player already owns on Steam. What this means to the average consumer is that they're able to have a game on Steam, and through using Connect, also have a DRM-free version of the game through GOG, as well as other benefits that GOG provides, such as the ability to use their lightweight GOG Galaxy platform for game management and updates. I'm genuinely surprised by this development. I'm delighted, but at the same time I'm very surprised, because this does some things that I wouldn't have expected in an ostensibly competing distribution platform. First and foremost, this is tantamount to giving games away. Obviously, this is a grand and at the very least on the surface altruistic move on the part of CD Projekt, as they're allowing players the choice to use their bandwidth when downloading and managing their games, as opposed to the platform it was purchased on. GOG games also had the added benefit of being DRM-free, meaning that there is without a shadow of a doubt a very large value proposition to the player in connecting this account. In the simplest of terms, this allows the consumer to buy the game once and own it on two platforms. They can have their Steam cake and eat it on GOG too. The reason this surprises me as much as it does is that not only does this create a potentially larger burden on GOG as they're giving away a product that they're selling for free, but they're also really incentivizing players to go shopping on a competing platform, as there's now actually less reason for a player to buy a game, assuming it's the same price, on GOG when it can be bought on Steam and then played on GOG anyway. Valve isn't reciprocating at this point. You can't own a game through GOG and then claim a free copy on Steam. Hell, Steam doesn't even comp their users free extra giftable copies of games they've already purchased when it exists in a bundle. And yet here we are, with GOG effectively telling their user base, please, go ahead and shop elsewhere. We'll eat the costs on our end. Now, I am fully aware that a digital game is a non-physical product, so there is no intrinsic cost in manufacturing, and data is infinitely replicable. Nothing specifically is being lost from GOG by offering to allow players to have the game through their platform, but there will be costs incurred through the cost of hosting the data, and most likely through downloads of products via bandwidth that they would never see a cent from. The cost may be low, but the term nickel and diming exists for a reason. Small amounts of money can still be death by 1,000 paper cuts. So what does CD Projekt Red stand to gain from doing this? The most obvious benefits are two that I can see: an influx of potential customers and brand loyalty. I'm going to go into both of these concepts and why these two, in many ways intangible benefits, may well be enough to incentivize GOG Connect. Let's start with the concept of potential customers. This isn't really that unusual of a concept, but I've educated enough about the free-to-play game model that I know that this concept is lost on some people, so I'd like to start by drawing a parallel. In the development of a free-to-play game, the game's publisher is certainly concerned with the monetization of their product and wants to offer purchasable items, microtransactions, that a customer might be willing to pay for. But even more valuable than a small number of large price items is the ability for the free-to-play game to bring in a vast number of potential customers. Regardless of the size of the user base, in markets like North America, the ratio of paying customers to non-paying customers remains at a fairly consistent 2%, give or take. This number becomes very important because it means that player acquisition and retention becomes the benchmarks of success, beyond that of instant monetary gratification. 2% of 100,000 copies of the game is obviously much less than 2% of 2 million, or 20 million, or 200 million players. GOG may be attempting to do the same. Steam is an entrenched market, and though GOG is beginning to offer much more by way of contemporary games, they have been historically selling to a niche through their adoption of the old games that are referenced in the name of the platform itself. by telling Steam consumers, we'll just give you games for free. Sure, they're games you already own, but now you'll be able to have a DRM-free version that you can download and keep forever, and play even when your internet connection is down. That gets people joining GOG. I have no doubt in my mind that when news of this gets around wholesale, opportunistic customers will jump on the opportunity to get DRM-free versions of the Steam games they own and love. Regardless of the fact that it's very unlikely that Steam is going anywhere anytime soon, that safety net alone is enough to interest a very large number of people, I'd be willing to bet. And once those players have joined GOG, there will be eyes on GOG's back library. As of the announcement of GOG Connect, GOG has also announced a week-long sale of a number of games with big names like Saints Row, System Shock, Trine, Sins of a Solar Empire, Xenonauts, and Broken Sword, which are a very mixed bag of genres, but guaranteed to also include something for everyone that they might just not already have. So if even a small percentage of the influx of new players take advantage of these deals, it could very easily offset the cost of suddenly offering distribution of games that, in all likelihood, wouldn't otherwise have been bought on their platform anyway, thanks to the fact that the player already owns them. They're building a library for these customers, getting them invested, and through doing so, might just get a few sales out of the deal. The other half of this coin is brand loyalty, and boy howdy is this going to lead to another surge in the unending stream of love that CD Projekt already gets for being the creators of the Witcher series, especially The Witcher 3 with its free DLC packs promotion it did, and they already had enough goodwill by then even to avoid much of the cynical why wasn't this just shipped with the game mentality that you usually find when Day 1 DLC appears. They released The Witcher 3, Blood and Wine, which by all accounts could easily have been its own game, and they also tell players in the same week that they're giving away free video games ostensibly. Hell, there was even a little bit of news about the long-awaited Cyberpunk 2077 recently. The delicious video game industry karma that they're accruing is palpable, and that karma can go a long way. By being one of the few companies that is so consistently the good guy as they are, they'll likely be able to do no wrong in the eyes of a lot of people, barring something catastrophic, and that's really important when you're taking a lot of people's money on the regular. My big question mark really only sits squarely on the point that CD Projekt definitely seems to be introducing a system that rewards players for not using their marketplace, which means that the sweet 30% that they should be taking home is going to Valve instead. That's nothing to sniff at either. Valve is the giant that it's become because of the cut it's taking from its digital distribution platform. If I was on the fence about where to buy FTL, Galactic Civilizations 3, or any other of the games in their list, assuming I didn't have reservations about Steam in the first place, as there are some people who just dislike Steam in the first place, and the price wasn't any different, there's very little reason not to buy through Steam at this point, except because of brand loyalty, wanting to support GOG and so on. Ultimately though, in its current form, Connect is not going to be suffering grandly from lost sales most likely. As it stands, most of the players connecting their Steam and GOG accounts are going to be taking advantage of the opportunity to get additional copies of games they already have, rather than looking to buy other games and getting a second copy. It'll certainly happen, but someone reasonably high up on CD Projekt's food chain likely made the value judgment and said that it was a risk they're willing to take for the customer influx and the increase in brand loyalty. But lastly, what of the publisher? Ultimately, it is their product that's being given away, and though perhaps rare, there are also consumers who would have been willing to pay for both. I know in the past, during Kickstarter campaigns, when I've gotten multiple copies of a game, I've asked for one on Steam and one on GOG, just so that I'd have the game on both. Well, in the strictest sense, it does mean that in those rare edge cases, the publisher is down profits for the double-dipping consumer. But the entire system is opt-in, as detailed by the line stating that Connect deals are eligible for transfer through various agreements with their partners, which is most likely PR speak for the publishers signed off on it for a specific time frame. So it's on them. Ultimately, the publisher also gets to ride the wave of goodwill this way, though most of the credit's likely to land squarely in CD Projekt's lap. Regardless of the outcome, basically everyone wins. It's still a surprising move, but GOG obviously crossed their T's and dotted their I's before committing to Connect, so we as consumers should be happy to make use of it. I, for one, am looking forward to see how it all pans out. But for now, good move, GOG. And that's it for me today. I hope that you enjoyed watching the show. We come out with a new scripted show about things important to the industry every Thursday, and a video podcast style show every Sunday. Join us every other day of the week as well for both awesome retro and contemporary game Let's Plays, many of which you can find on Steam and GOG. Until next time, thanks for watching, and take care.